Hi, my name's Tammy, and I am one of the support and recovery team members here, and I love to facilitate anger management. That's actually the class that I am passionate about, and so sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but tonight I'm going to be talking about steps 4 through 9. Now I know that this is like a fire hose, and so I really am going to try and help with this, but just know there is a lot, and there is a booklet that you can get, a PDF that you can get of all of these steps, and if you want, just ask your facilitator about that. We'll make sure and get you the link for that. But for now, we are going to jump in and we're going to start with step 4. In case you guys don't know what that says, this is where we make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Now that can sound really big and kind of scary, and it can be, because who really wants to look at ourselves and say, what is wrong with me? But my guess is a lot of you are here because of that reason in the first place, because there is things that are not going right in your life and you want to be able to address them. And so I just really commend you on that. One of the verses that goes along with this, because we are people of faith, and we respect the fact that you may not be, but we will use the Bible from time to time to be able to help us look at this from God's perspective. So one of the verses that I really love about this is it says, God, examine me and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. We have lots of anxious thoughts right now, don't we? See if there is any bad thing in me. Lead me on the road to the everlasting life. So one of the things that we want to do with step 4 is we want to get real. We want to look at the root problems and not just the surface ones, because honestly, you guys, if you spend all of your time just trying to weed out the surface problems in your life, they will never get fixed. You'll be chasing them over and over and over. But if you get to the root, just like with a weed, if you will pull out the root, then all of these other surface problems will go away. So this is our opportunity to look at what is going on in my life and admit it. Do a fearless moral inventory. Now, if you have a notebook, I'd like to encourage you to get out that notebook and on your own time, really search and look through it and see. The 2 rules for this are be honest and be thorough. Because the more that you get at those roots, the more you're going to be able to overcome and not just survive. Some of the things that you might look at are pride, anger, greed, lust, envy, gluttony. Right now, when you're trapped in your house with the food that you have in your cupboard, it's really tempting to just go and eat when we're bored, right? That is something that's really prevalent right now. Laziness might be another one. There's all kinds of things. So just take a look at those things and really get honest with yourself. Step 5 says, admit to God, to yourself, and to another human being the exact nature of your wrongs. Now this can be super scary to tell somebody else all those things that you have written out, but you guys, this is an area where there is so much freedom available. Really, lots of freedom available here. I know it has been for me, but I do want to say that it's so important to find somebody who is safe to do this with. Not everybody is safe, but somebody who you know is not going to go and tell anyone else about it. Somebody that you know that you can look them in the eye and they're still going to love you. At Support and Recovery, something that is super important to us, and even at LifePoint, it's to be known and loved. And you guys, be truly known. That is so important. And that means sometimes exposing our weaknesses and our sin and our shortcomings, and then being accepted and loved, even in the face of that. So some really important thing, who should you do that with? Someone who you can trust, someone who has a proven track record of accountability, of confidentiality, someone who is dedicated to spiritual and personal growth for themselves, and they understand the value of doing this, that they're mature enough to reflect back to you mercy, acceptance, and encouragement, and they won't be blown away by the things that you confess to them. That's someone to share this with. What should you share with them? Be specific. We're only as sick as our secrets. That's something that we say because it's true. The more you keep things hidden, the sicker you become. And the more freedom you'll experience as you share with other people. Let's move on to step 6. Step 6 says, we are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Now, you might not be ready, but this is a step that we encourage you to do. Step 6 is all about saying, I am going to make a choice. I'm going to come to God and say, I surrender. I want you to help me. I've been trying on my own and it's just not working. And I'm going to admit this to you. And I need you to help me remove these defects in my character. Do you want to be healed? Do you want to be well? This is one of those steps that you will take that will help with that. So an important thing is letting go of. You're doing this to let go of some of that stuff. Sometimes we live in shame and we live in judgment of ourselves and we allow that to keep us stuck. And this admitting piece is taking that step to say, I'm ready to let some of this go. Now, why do we hold on to this stuff? Sometimes we hold on to it because these are survival skills that we learned. They're tools that we have used to get us this far, but they might not be working anymore. And so I encourage you to lay those down and pick up some ones that are more effective, more helpful. You can talk about this with other people in your group. Like, what tools have they found? What else could I use instead of this one that I had been using to cope or medicate or survive? You're giving up the survival to start overcoming. The step 7 says, humbly ask God to remove these shortcomings. See how these work together? First you admit, and you say, I'm entirely ready. I'm going to dive in. And then you ask God to remove it. Humility is an important part of this, knowing that you can't do it. Your character defects can be so serious and so ingrained into the patterns of your life that no matter how much self-will you have, no matter how much your willpower you work up, you will never be able to lick your character defects alone. It's going to take a miraculous work of God to remove the defects from your life. And that's okay, we're all in the same boat. We all have to get to this point where we say, I've tried everything that I can, and I can't move any further, so I need your help, God. There's a big difference between knowing what your problem is and knowing how to get your problem dealt with. And you guys, this starts with prayer, talking to God. Just being real with Him about what is going on. And then what I like to say is we start cooperating with God. So we might not be able to fix it, but we can say, okay, God, what is the next step? What is the next step? I'll take that next step. You choose to cooperate with the work that He is helping you do in your life. And then celebrate the progress. So often we just go, okay, I'm done with that, and then we don't stop and celebrate. So I'm going to encourage you, as a group, as an individual, celebrate the wins, celebrate the growth. It's so helpful. At Support and Recovery, we often do a celebration with chips that say, hey, I have this many days under my belt of freedom from this thing, and I have this many months and this many years. And so that's one of the ways that we celebrate. But there's lots of other ways that you can do that and be creative and encourage one another to do that. Let's move on to step 8. This is the step where we say, I'm going to make a list of all the persons who I have harmed, and become willing to make amends to them. Now this can be really scary because sometimes we would rather just move on and pretend like it never happened. But this is one of those areas, you guys, that has brought so much freedom into my life. And so seeking forgiveness from other people, and also receiving forgiveness for myself. But we don't ask somebody else to forgive us if to relieve our conscience. It's to really make amends for what we did to them, so that we can identify with how it made them feel. So one of the important things is to say, am I willing to go to that person and say, man, I see how my actions have affected you, and I am so sorry. Now there is a rule about this. If going to them would hurt them or wound them or cause them more problems, then we don't do that. We just say, you know what? God, forgive me. And if it is possible to go to them and talk to them, I want to do that. But we don't do it if it's going to cause them more wounding. Making direct amends to someone whenever possible, except when to do so will injure them or others. So sometimes it would injure others. So like an example, if there was an affair and you were to go to them and it stirred things up with them and their spouse or something like that. So please just keep that in mind. Just imagine a suitcase for just a moment. And this is one of those times that it's like, okay, you have a suitcase in front of you and you pull things out and go, oh, I need to look at this. I need to examine this. I need to make amends for this. I really screwed up. I really hurt them because of my drug use. I hurt them because of my lying or my stealing or any of that. And I need to go to them and say, oh, I can't even imagine what that was like for you. But when you can, would you please forgive me? Do you want to share with me the impact that had on you? This is such an important thing to talk about in the groups because other people have had experience with it. Some people haven't yet. And so it will be encouraging for other people to hear, those of you who have had this experience and you have done the work, for you to share in your group and talk about the freedom that either you have experienced, the freedom that somebody else, and the healing that somebody else has experienced because they stepped into this work. A few reminders for step 9. The reaction of the other person does not control your recovery. So let's say they say, I reject that. I don't want your apology. You can never make up for that. You still have the ability to recover because you're taking this step. Avoid manipulating the person for forgiveness. Please, 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 just forgive me. No, you ask for forgiveness. You say, hey, when you can, if you can, would you please forgive me? Don't try to convince others that you have changed. Boy, you guys, this really got me in a lot of trouble early in my recovery. When I went back and I tried to convince my friends that I had changed, then they tried even harder to get me to be the same old person that I was before. And so don't try and convince people. They'll see over time that you have done your work. There will be fruit and proof that you have done it as you begin to walk in more healing. And then avoid manipulating to resume a severed relationship. Sometimes we want to apologize just to make it all better so that we can continue in our relationship. And that's not what this is about. This is honestly about you looking at the stuff that is inside of you and cleaning out those closets and making it right with people as best as you can so that you can move on, so that you can recover and heal and grow, and so can they if they're able to receive it. So this is all really hard and important stuff that we can do together. And here at Support and Recovery, we want to be intentional about supporting you as you lean into this kind of growth. And maybe you've never heard of this 12 steps before, but any of us can learn from this and apply them to our lives. And so we do want to encourage you to do that, and we look forward to hearing from you and being with you. And we have somebody else who will continue on with the next steps, and then we have other topics throughout this time. And so we look forward to diving in and talking more about this in our groups. And my challenge to you is really get that notebook so that you can do step 4 and step 8 and 9, and you guys practice it. Even if you have to take baby steps, go ahead and lean in and do that. You don't have to do it all at once, but just start. And make sure that you're verbalizing it and sharing it with somebody else, because they can help you look back and go, you did that work. I see the growth in you, even if other people can't. So I just encourage you and support you as you continue to lean into this hard work. Thanks for being here.